You are standing in your own kitchen, a kitchen you have used for 30 years, holding a pill organizer with 6 different supplements inside it. You take them every morning, not one day missed in over a year. Then your phone rings. Your daughter asks you something simple, the kind of thing that should take half a second to answer, and there is nothing there. Not a slow answer. Nothing. If that has happened to you, despite doing everything the labels told you to do, this video will explain exactly why. And the reason has nothing to do with how committed you were. It has to do with what every single one of those vitamins was structurally incapable of doing. That is what I am going to walk you through today. My name is Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka. I have spent 4 decades in neurological research, studying how the aging brain loses access to its own stored information and why certain interventions produce measurable results while others produce nothing at all, regardless of the dose. I also spent years doing exactly what I just described, systematically testing supplements on myself, tracking my own cognitive performance, trusting the published rationale behind each ingredient. The enemy in this story is not aging. It is a flawed assumption that has been sitting at the center of the cognitive supplement industry for decades. The assumption that memory failure is a deficiency problem. The logic says the brain is missing something, so we add more. More B12, more omega-3, more ginkgo, more phosphatidylserine. The entire market was built on this premise, and the premise is wrong, not because the ingredients have no biological value. Some do. But deficiency is not what is driving memory failure in adults over 50. A study published in 2023 in the journal Molecules specifically examined what is actually happening inside the aging brain during recall failure, and what it identified is not a shortage of vitamins. It is neurochemical interference. This channel, Neuroevidence, exists for a single purpose: to show you what peer-reviewed research actually says about brain health, without any commercial filter and without any sponsored agenda. If that matters to you, if you want to protect your mind and your independence with information built on data, not marketing, subscribe right now. Everything you will find here has been verified against published literature. And before we continue, I want to ask you to type one word in the comments below: evidence. If you are done accepting solutions that were never designed to address the actual biological problem, type that word. It tells me this research matters to you. So if the problem is not deficiency, what is it? Here's what the neurological evidence shows. When you cannot retrieve a name or a word, the memory has not been erased. The neural pathway that leads to it still exists. What is blocking access is not an absence, it is interference. Think of it this way. Picture a large archive room where every document you have ever filed is still there, correctly labeled, correctly stored. Every memory, every name, every face, they are all there. But over time, someone has been sliding loose papers across every aisle, stacking them in front of every drawer, covering every surface. You know the document exists. You can almost reach the handle. But the debris is in the way. That is what neurochemical interference looks like inside a living brain. The research identifies 3 specific biological failures that create that debris. First, declining nerve growth factor. NGF is the protein responsible for maintaining and rebuilding the neural connections your brain relies on for recall. When NGF falls, and it does fall with age, those pathways degrade. The archive's internal filing system starts to break down. Second, oxidative stress. Reactive oxygen species accumulate inside brain cells and cause progressive cellular damage. The brain begins rusting from the inside, and that rust dramatically accelerates protein accumulation. Third, and most critically, inadequate clearance of tau and beta amyloid. These are normal metabolic byproducts that a healthy brain clears continuously. When NGF drops and oxidative damage rises, that clearance system fails. The proteins accumulate. They become the debris covering the archive floor. The 2023 Molecules study I referenced identified a specific compound isolated from tamarind pulp that measurably reduced both tau and beta amyloid levels in memory impairment models and demonstrably improved spatial memory recall. Not by adding nutrients to the brain, by removing what was blocking access to what was already there. This is what every vitamin you have ever taken missed. Not because it was a bad ingredient, because it was an answer to the wrong question. So what does the typical response to memory decline look like? It starts with a B complex, then vitamin D3, then fish oil, then a branded memory formula with 14 ingredients on the label and a clinical-sounding name. I have reviewed dozens of these formulations in the published literature. Every single one of them operates on the same logic. Add more signal, more choline, more stimulant activity, more antioxidant input. They are signal boosters, built entirely on the deficiency assumption. Then come the brain training applications. I have seen patients become genuinely skilled at those specific games. I have watched them return from a session and blank entirely on a close friend's name 1 hour later. The application sharpens the application. It does not clear neurochemical interference. And then dietary overhauls, Mediterranean protocols, anti-inflammatory elimination diets. These have real value for systemic inflammation over the long term. But they are slow, difficult to sustain, and they do not directly address the accumulated protein buildup that is actively blocking recall right now. You were not failing. You were given tools designed for a problem you do not have. Let me walk you through what happens when the actual mechanism is targeted correctly. Day 1. The first day is quiet. What begins is foundational. The neuroinflammatory environment that has been sustaining the protein accumulation receives a direct biochemical counter. The cellular conditions inside the brain begin to shift toward active clearance. You will feel very little, perhaps a very subtle thinning of the fog, the way a room feels when someone opens a window. What matters is that the groundwork for everything that follows is being laid. One thing I want to be precise about here. This only works if what you are giving the brain can actually cross the blood-brain barrier and initiate that process at the neuronal level. Most supplement compounds do not reach the brain in concentration sufficient to do anything meaningful. If the delivery mechanism is wrong, day 1 produces nothing. Not a little, nothing. Day 3. By day 3, something has changed. I want to tell you how one patient described it to me, because I think she said it better than I can in clinical language. She was at her kitchen table. Her son asked her a simple question when the family gathering was scheduled for the following month. The date came immediately, clearly without the usual scramble. But what she came back to tell me about was not the date arriving. It was what did not arrive with it. The specific chest-tightening dread that normally preceded every recall moment, that half second of raw terror telling her something was wrong with her brain, was simply not there. The memory surfaced. The panic did not follow it. That absence was the signal. Day 2. What made day 3 possible? On day 2, behind every interaction the patient was having with her family, the brain's autophagy mechanisms were operating at elevated rates. Tau protein was being broken down between neurons. Beta amyloid accumulation was measurably slowing. Antioxidant enzyme activity, specifically the GPX and SOD pathways documented in the research, was increasing, reducing the oxidative load on brain cells. NGF synthesis was beginning to recover, allowing the neural scaffolding responsible for recall to start rebuilding. None of this was perceptible. Day 2 did not feel like anything, but every one of those processes was the precise reason day 3 felt different. Day 5. By day 5, the change has moved from internal to visible. A patient I worked with attended a family dinner on day 5. His daughter had spent several weeks quietly watching him, monitoring the hesitations in his speech, the careful conversational detours he used to avoid blanking in front of people. On day 5, she had nothing to watch for. He answered questions directly. He recalled a story from 30 years ago with full, unprompted detail. His son-in-law laughed at the right moment. Nobody was monitoring his face. He was simply there, present and engaged, in the way that people who love you recognize immediately, even when they do not say a word. The quiet fear of being the person the family worries about, the one they glance at when something goes quiet, that began to dissolve on day 5, day 7. By day 7, it is not about remembering anymore. It is about presence. The specific quality of day 7 is this: words arrive before you notice you need them. Names surface without the gap. You are not managing the conversation from the inside, rationing your attention and bracing for the moment something will not come. You are simply in it, thinking, responding, contributing, the way you always did before any of this started. That is what a cleared archive actually feels like to use. That is day 7. Before I tell you what I found, I want to be precise about what any intervention that actually addresses this problem has to do, because the failure rate of products in this category is extremely high, and most fail at least one of these 4 criteria. First, it must demonstrably support NGF synthesis, not loosely associate with it. It must have a verified mechanism for stimulating nerve growth factor production. Without NGF recovery, the neural infrastructure continues to degrade regardless of what else is in the formula. Second, it must reduce oxidative stress specifically at the neuronal level. targeting the reactive oxygen species responsible for the progressive cellular damage inside brain tissue. Systemic antioxidant activity is not enough. The rust inside the neurons has to stop. Third, it must actively facilitate clearance of tau and beta amyloid. This is the criterion almost nothing on the market meets. The supplement industry has largely ignored it. If the accumulated protein interference is not addressed directly, the archive floor stays buried, regardless of everything else. Fourth, the delivery format must be capable of actually reaching the brain. Standard capsules and tablets degrade during digestion, and the compounds they carry often do not cross the blood-brain barrier in concentrations sufficient to initiate any of the first three functions. Format is not a secondary consideration. It is a prerequisite. Very few things meet all four. That is not my commercial opinion. That is an evidence-based observation. What I found, after applying every one of those criteria to what is currently available, is Neuroprime. It is a liquid drop supplement, which immediately addresses the fourth criterion. Sublingual delivery means the compounds enter circulation before the digestive process has any opportunity to degrade them. The formulation directly targets all three mechanism failure points. Lion's mane has a verified relationship with NGF synthesis. The tamarin compound identified in the 2023 molecules study reduces tau and beta amyloid protein accumulation. Pine bark extract addresses the oxidative load at the neuronal level. I have put the link in the description below. What you will find there is not a checkout page. It is a detailed explanation of the root cause argument and the research behind this specific formulation. I would encourage you to read it before you make any decision. What matters first is that you understand the mechanism. If you decide to try it, here is what to expect, realistically. Within the first 7 days, most people notice a qualitative shift in the density of the fog. Not a dramatic transformation, a reduction. The anticipatory dread that normally accompanies recall moments begins to soften. Full and sustained results take 30 to 60 days of consistent use. Do not evaluate it at day 4. It is 1 drop each morning, directly under the tongue or into your coffee, your tea, whatever you drink. 10 seconds. No protocol, no tracking, no adjustment to your existing routine. And there is a full 365-day money-back guarantee. Every bottle, no questions, no conditions. For someone who has already spent meaningfully on products that did not deliver, that is not a minor detail. It removes the only remaining reason not to find out. Before you go, I want to ask you to type the word present in the comments below, because if you are watching this video, you are someone who intends to stay fully present in the conversations that matter, in your family's life, in your own mind. That word is for you, not for this channel. And if you know someone who has spent years and real money on vitamins that were never designed to address the actual problem, share this video with them directly, not as advice, as information they were never given and deserve to have. Your brain was never broken. The memories are still there. Now you know exactly what has been buried in front of them and what it actually takes to clear it.